A vague disclaimer is no one's friend. This podcast will look at episodes in relation to Buffy and Angel as a whole, and therefore contains spoilers for the entirety of both series. If you haven't seen all of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel the series, go and watch them before you listen to this. Remember, you've been warned.
The hardest thing in this world is to live in it.
That's why there's us, champions. We live as though the world were as it should be, to show it what it can be.
The Earth is definitely doomed.
It's Tuesday, so it must be time to return to the Hellmouth. We're going through the Buffyverse episode by episode, and we'll look back at Joss Whedon's iconic shows. I'm Emcee, and I'm here with...
What up? It's Andy.
And this is David.
And I'm Logan.
We are talking about Amends, which is episode 10 of season 3, and originally aired December 15th, 1998, and was written and directed by Joss Whedon himself.
Who?
Who's that guy?
He's an obscure director. He turns up every once in a while.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Probably never heard of him.
Oh, doesn't he usually do, like, Shakespeare and stuff?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Emcee's favorite episode.
You make it sound like Andy feels about Teacher's Pet. This is not
It's not that bad.
It's this episode. But we start out this episode with a flashback in Dublin in 1838.
Prepare for bad accent theater. This is...
I've got to say that the sets are very reminiscent of, like, Doctor Who, very clean, Victorian, like, you know, like what it doesn't really look like, all these pretty sets and these. So it was very... I watch this episode every year at Christmas, just because it's a Christmas episode of Buffy.
Oh, so do I. I mean, as much as I'm not really into it, I still watch it every year.
And I'm super into flashbacks. I thought this was pretty cool. And I did. It reminded me of a Doctor Who, you know.
Yeah, it does. It does look like the one with Charles Dickens.
Yes, it does. It does. Yeah.
I did find it really strange that Angelus's conversation with Daniel, because it's like Angelus is a poker player and he lets somebody go with a debt. And I'm like, is this Angelus playing with his food?
I think so, yeah.
I think so, too.
I'm just surprised that Angelus or Angel would be any good at poker.
But doesn't he play with the Rat Pack? Or he just hangs with them?
He hangs with them. I don't think he ever said that.
I don't know if he plays poker with them, but I mean, like, neither of them strike me as someone who would have an anywhere decent poker face. Like, you can read them like a book.
Sorry, it's the them thing that's killing me. I mean, they're two different people, legitimately, but it's...
Right.
The scene goes and it's Angel's dream, so he goes out to walk the streets of Sunnydale, and he runs into Buffy, and just Buffy bangs! Oh my God.
I got it. They're the worst Buffy hair of all time.
Unbelievable. What happened? Was there an accident?
I have to admit, I didn't really, note the bangs specifically, but she definitely looked different.
It's the baby bangs.
They're so tiny and just...
They're awful.
Yeah.
I've had that happen to me. I went to get just skim them off right above my eyebrows. And they took them halfway up my forehead and they made them... And I was like, what are you doing? And by that time it was too late. And the only thing we could do it was awful. It was an awful couple of months while those things grew out. It was the worst trauma. They're awful, and you can tell for the rest of the episode that the hair person is trying to hide them. That part, and then they're just sort of pop up, worst Buffy hair of all time. It is offensive to thine eyes.
So are we saying the only person who should ever have bangs is Betty Page?
No, I mean, I have bangs, but not that bad.
Okay.
I have lovely, adorable bangs.
You
do.
I think bangs have to at least be over an inch long, which Buffy's were not.
Yeah.
No, it's you must be this tall to ride situation. They were fucking rough. Oh boy.
Angel's all tortured, and he's run into Buffy, and I have no real comment about this scene.
It's awkward. That's...
Which I guess it should be, but I think it's awkward from
But it's also kind of all this scene does.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's cold open set up, and it's just kind of, okay.
I was thinking about addressing this in the wrap-up, but I can bring this up now. I think one of the reasons why I have a problem with this episode is because This and Anne, I think, are total backdoor pilots for Angel.
Mhm.
Anne establishes the location and kind of the tone of it. Well, this one sets up Angel as his own character. This episode, more than any other Buffy episode, focuses on Angel. Even the episode with his own name, I don't think focused on Angel all that much. This one is establishing him. The only problem is they did not really get what they wanted to do with Angel as a character until, like, episode 10 or 11 of season 1 of Angel.
It's
I
funny
would
that
disagree
that's the
with you, yeah.
yeah. I'm there, but it's funny that that's the purpose of this episode when the Angel bits are, unless it concerns Jenny, my least favorite parts. I'm more into what I guess would be considered the B plot of this particular episode, the goings on with the Scoobs and stuff like that. So.
And I remember in fandom around the time of season 7, when everybody started showing up, like that whole montage of big bads that show up in the credits, not in the credits, in Spike's visions.
At the very,
like at the beginning
at the
of
very
season.
end of
Everyone's
lessons,
like, people were like, no, it's got to be the first. And everyone's like, no, the first is so tied to Angel. And Angel's thing, they can't possibly be the first. And it ended up being the first. But that was a lot of the discourse about what this is. And a lot of people were right. And a lot of people were like, oh, really?
I'll get more into that later on once we
when
get
we
into
get
what
to
the
season
first
7,
is doing. But yeah, no, I mean, like, this episode is a backdoor pilot for Angel and a backdoor pilot for season 7, which is one of the reasons why I find this episode so jarring, because it comes in the middle of season 3. So much of the stuff in this episode does not get carried through until season 7, so it feels.
But did they know that they were going to use this villain for season 7? There's no way. They just decided to bring it back.
Yeah, that's why because you keep saying backdoor pilot, and I have a little trouble with that term for this, because it's like backdoor pilot to me implies that there's intention to it.
Well, I think with the Angel stuff, I do think that it was very intentional.
Really?
Yeah, I think with
because wasn't Angel already in the works?
Well, okay, I mean, when I'm saying backdoor pilot, not for the network, but for the audience, trying to get the audience into like the whole idea of Anne establishes, Los Angeles, and Angel, and this episode establishes Angel. Most of Angel's stuff is apart from Buffy in this. Like, there is there is their relationship, but it is very much establishing Angel as his own character. So, yeah, that's why I think it's kind of a backdoor pilot for Angel. It's kind of easing the audience into this idea of him as a leading man.
It's certainly they're trying it out on everyone is what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly they do bring the first evil stuff over in season 7, which they did not plan for because Joss didn't plan to do 7 seasons of Buffy. He was planning to end it with 5. There was definitely no plan to bring any of the stuff back up again. It was just going to be that little Christmas play, basically. Yeah,
I started seeing like that last season of Buffy as sort of a Babylon 5 situation where they're like, oh wait, we have to do another season now? Oh god, what do we do?
Yeah, and season 6 is really what
it's
Joss...
Marty's.
Well, it's Marty's, but a lot of it, the Dark Willow stuff, that was all stuff that was going to be used in season 5, but Joss decided when he got the pickup for season 6, he's like, okay, I'm actually going to take this stuff out and expand it into a whole season, which... Yeah, we'll talk about that. But yeah, moving on, we get to the opening credits, and then Buffy talking to Willow and Xander about Angel, and fuck you, Xander. Buffy's actually worried about something. And
also, I was like, she says enough, and I'm like, not only enough, not so loud.
Yeah.
He's like, so-and-so. Well, he tortured Giles, and it's like, there are people standing all around them. This is like, it's like, this is why I had to stop watching Supergirl.
I was really upset at Xander and Willow in this scene because Buffy is legitimately concerned about Angel, and it does not come off like there's something wrong with my boyfriend thing. And Xander's dismissing it because he doesn't like Angel, and Willow is reading it very immaturely, or it's like, maybe it's the Christmas blues.
one of my next notes is Willow, shut up. This is not a good scene for them.
I was a little disappointed, and I know they still did it at the time, but later on in later seasons, they hide it in the end credits. I was a little sad to see Rubbia's name in the credits and have that spoiled. Again, shows weren't quite doing the hide it behind the end credits thing yet. Like, they will. They hid Giles's reveal.
Yeah, in
behind
Two
the
to
credits
Go,
in Two to Go, and I think they hit all the reveals in season 7 of all the different big bads, the first different big bads, but they hadn't quite learned that trick yet.
Yeah.
So I was sort of like, oh, I mean, obviously I know she's in it. I've seen it a billion times, but
even when they had Vinny appear as Connor for the first time, they hid his name in the end credits, and he hadn't appeared on the show yet. So it's like it would have meant nothing to have him in the opening credits. But yeah,
I mean, Willow and Xander here are really insensitive. I think they get much better through the episode, and this is one of the episodes where I don't hate Xander.
Yeah,
that much.
It's only in this opening little bit where he's being Xander that I have a problem with him. But other than that, I think he's pretty good.
This is doubting Buffy. I mean, we see it again later.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, it reminds me of a lot of Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah.
She literally has prophetic dreams. This is her job. She knows what she's talking about. Is it because you have these blinders about Angel? What's going on? Stop it.
And Willow, I think, bothers me even more than Xander. Because, I mean, everything Xander says... Well, I mean, one, it's not exactly untrue. It's terribly put, but a lot of it is... Yeah, I can kind of understand it. But Willow kind of dismissing it as being, the holiday blues. It's like, Willow, come on. It's Angel. Do you really think that's going to be his thing? Like, if Buffy is actually worried, I don't think Buffy's going to be worried because Angel's brooding, because he does that all the time.
That's his main hobby.
It's a natural state.
Yeah. So, I have a question, and I guess this is for David, because Jan is not with us this week, and so we've only got one of our Jewish co-hosts on. But is Willow's attitude at being annoyed at the phrase "What are you doing for Christmas" a normal Jewish attitude, or is it?
I'm sure there are Jewish people who feel that way. I certainly don't, and I don't think anyone I know does. I mean, really, because Christmas, not to demean anyone who does treat it religiously, but let's face it, it's basically a secular holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I mean, Jews are like, yeah, whatever, it's Christmas. I get a day off for it. It's a national holiday, whatever. I mean, I know it's based on Christian religion, but whatever. Yeah. That's the thing. So many Christian holidays get elevated to a national holiday status, that, especially like the major ones, that at this point, I think many Jews are just like, yeah, it's whatever. And then we're like, hey, we're Jewish, so we get extra holidays.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if Willow was channeling her mother, because we will meet her mother in the next episode.
Yeah.
Like the repeated mention of the Hanukkah spirit, which I did think was cute when Xander did it. But in my head, I was like, isn't Hanukkah usually like over by this point? Because this is like
it depends on.
I know it varies, but it seems to be like it's usually like really early in December.
It's usually earlier, but I think just sometime in the last couple of years
ago, I think it coincided.
It coincided. So it does happen. It's speaking as someone whose birthday almost always falls on either Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur every few years. It's like, the lunar cycle thing is just, you never know when it's going to fall. It does happen.
Okay,
not totally infrequent.
And Cordelia.
Oh, Cordy, my girl.
Yeah. And this is all she's here for. It's really...
It's to remind the audience why she's not going to be in the rest of the episode, because she's going to Aspen. And also that there is still fallout from the badness. So, part of it is this is for plot reasons and Charisma's contract and episodes and stuff. But also to remind the audience that, she's still around. She's still here and she's still... salty, but she's only salty to Xander.
That is, yeah. I mean,
she's sarcastic to Willow and Buffy, but she's pointedly salty at Xander.
Yeah. I mean, I know that Cordelia's heart was broken, and I don't want to try to take that away from her. But what she says to Xander is
harsh.
It's very
It is.
harsh. Yeah.
Ooh, it's, yeah.
And
Mhm.
this is one of those scenes where I feel for Xander.
Yeah.
And just knowing that, I mean, obviously, I'm pretty sure Willow knows why he sleeps outside, but she's not going to say it out loud.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know what I mean? And-
Especially not then when there's a lot of people around.
Yeah.
Buffy may
Well,
or
that's
may
the-
not know, but Willow definitely knows and would never say. And if Buffy did know, she would never say that out loud in front of people.
Right.
But Cordelia is hurting and wants to wound him back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Xander actually kind of takes it.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, thanks for saying that thing that I didn't want anyone to know." But at
Yeah.
this point, I think Xander's sort of like, "I'm just going to take Cordelia's
Yeah.
shit because I fucked up."
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think, again, for me, the problem with the scene is it's like a lot of the things I have problems with throughout Buffy. It's like it's there, as you say, it's there because we have to put Cordelia in for contractual reasons and to remind everyone about that plot line. But the thing is, it's done so bluntly and unartfully that it's just like you could have done just a better job of it.
Mhm.
It's just not well done. There are times when you have to put things in for plot reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about good writing is that you do it in a way that doesn't make it stand out as this thing that's been slotted in. And they didn't do that.
I also have to say I felt the whole plot line of Sunnydale having a warm front was so ham-handedly handled.
Oh, yeah.
Because calling it Sweatydale, and later on with the with the fireplace and everything. It's all there to serve the magical ending, but
Yeah.
it's
And nobody really acts like it's that hot.
nobody. If you actually
They're
look at
wearing
their
long
clothes,
sleeve
they're wearing,
shirts and coats.
they're wearing winter clothes.
Yeah, they are. And it's so when it snows, they've got pretty jackets on. But like,
Yeah.
I will say, you know what? I love, and it's a very small moment in this scene. Buffy's face is really soft towards Cordelia. Like it's a nice little bit of like unspoken sort of facial acting that, Buffy, even though Cordelia said this harsh stuff, keeps her face really soft and says, it makes sort of a little joke with Cordelia there. She's trying to not get in the middle of it and also show Cordy that, I mean, she could have had a better conversation with Cordy, but she's trying to show Cordy that she's not going to automatically defend Xander or get in the way of Cordy's anger. So it's very subtle. It's very small, but I liked it.
What she's trying to do is support everyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
she knows Cordy's hurting, but she also knows that she's lashing out and being kind of unfair to other people. And so she's like trying to diffuse it a bit, but in a way that isn't like, "Oh, Cordy, stop it. You're wrong." She's like, she does it in a way that doesn't undermine Cordelia's pain, but at the same time, it's like, maybe your actions are a little much.
Yeah.
She's basically kind of walking the line there in a good way.
It really does break my heart that Xander sleeps outside every year
Oh, yeah.
because his family is awful.
Oh yeah. No.
I don't
Is this the
excuse Xander's behavior, his toxic masculinity, but it's definitely learned. And he does have a family that he very much wants to get away from. And when he comes to the library later, that's part of it. But also he wants to be with his chosen family in a moment of peace.
Is this our first real indication of how horrible Xander's family is?
Yes, before this, they came off as more neglectful than anything else, and but this is the first time they've said outright that Xander's family has alcoholics in it, or at least people who abuse alcohol during family gatherings, and it will certainly become more of a thing later on. We won't get a real look at it until, I think, Restless, when we see Xander's dreams, and then in Hell's Bells, when we actually see the Harris family, and oh my god, we're gonna have things to say in that episode. But we get into what I think is the best part of this episode.
And he's doing a happy dance in the background.
And that is Oz coming into things. And oh my god, Oz is way too good and emotionally mature for Willow.
Yeah.
Oz is way too good and emotionally mature for most people, regardless of their age.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm like, wow. I've taken years of therapy to get to the place where I can talk about my wants and needs like Oz can, and he's like 18 years old. So,
Yeah. This is another place where I was just like, Willow, shut up. Because Oz has basically got the situation handled, and she's just like, well, really, anything I can do? And it's like, just shut up and let him talk. Really.
But she does. She
does get the idea, but at first it's like, she just interrupts him and is like, no, just don't talk right now.
As a hyper-verbal person that has done that many times to my taciturn loved one, I Willow, shut up, but like Andy, and I'm sort of like, okay,
but Andy,
stop. But Andy, shut up too. And yeah, he's so good at expressing fully and without reservation. There's no hesitation. There's no, he just, oh God, Oz is the perfect
really,
boyfriend.
It's really very similar to when he told her to back off and leave him alone.
Mm-hmm.
He's very clear. He's not mean about it. He's just, and here he's not overly sentimental. He's just like, this is how I feel.
Yeah, those two scenes are really, bookending each other, because that scene was, I need time to process what's going on, and this scene is, I've processed what was going on, and this is what I need going forward. And it's, yeah, he's just he's so fucking grown up.
That line about losing an arm, or worse, a torso, is just like,
yep.
So cute.
Like, there's some bad writing in this. That is not it. That is just like so powerfully like.
I mean, I know I talk about using lines from Buffy, but I have only used that line once. And I mean, I didn't use that exact line, but that is how I described when I lost my mother.
That's actually exactly how I described it when I lost my father. So I feel you. 100% feel you on that.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. It's this, and this is like when they're on. They do just such a great job at this. They write stuff that's on the face of it, it's just a very silly line, but it's a very real line at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a silly way of putting it. It's got humor to it, but it's very real. It's like it expresses exactly that feeling.
Joss is very, very proud of this episode because of the writing in it. He says that some of the scenes have his best writing ever. I don't think that this is a very great episode in terms of plot or even what happens with the characters, but there is some dialogue in it, and we know that Joss writes really great dialogue, where it's like, yeah, this is very good writing. I just wish it was in an episode that I kind of enjoyed more. And
exactly.
The way the acting is handled, it's, a wordless moment, but when Oz and Willow hug, and the way Oz cradles Willow's head, and just he closes his eyes, it makes me so happy, but also in a way breaks my heart.
I would also like to point out that Willow actually asked for consent before she hugs him.
That is
true, is
this
a place we could hug? And it seems like she actually has taken his message to heart. And if he says no, not quite right now, she would have backed off.
Yeah.
He's not going to say no, but like she does. She very explicitly asks for consent, which is big for Willow because she hardly ever does that through the entire run of the show.
Yes.
No.
Which is why earlier I'm not sure who was inclined to disagree with me, but in an earlier episode I suggested that Willow actually did listen to Oz and take his words to heart and give him the space he needed, judging by her reaction to this, him coming to her and talking. But what I really like about that hug is in the previous episode, we see one of, ostensibly, at least in a different universe, one of Willow's lovers also cradle her head, and it's an entirely different feel. I love it so much.
Of that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I did actually, and that was actually the only moment where I ever bought Willow and Xander as a couple. So yeah, no, it was,
agreed.
It was really nice, yeah. And it was me who was disagreeing with you on the Oz and Willow scene. So yeah, I can definitely see where I was annoyed by it in that episode, but when it carries through into this one, it's like, okay, so it all does work out okay. And we move on to Buffy and Joyce tree shopping.
Is having snow on a tree a thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What? Fake snow. The fake snow on a tree is totally a thing.
I've never done it, but there's a lot.
It's an ugly thing, but it's a thing.
No, I was like, as a Jew who lives in New York in an apartment, I've never had a tree. I don't know. I mean, and whenever I see trees on TV, whenever they have a tree in a Christmas scene on TV, I don't remember ever seeing it covered in fake snow.
The only time I've ever seen it on TV is when someone has a tacky tree and everybody points out how tacky it is.
Usually when I see fake snow these days, it's usually like an artificial tree where the fake snow is like actually like built onto it.
Oh,
and I know you can buy like snow in a can that you can spray on the tree, which, you know, if you have animals, do not do that because it's horrible for them. I've never had fake snow on a tree, but then I live in Canada, so that we get enough snow just in general.
That you don't need to put fake snow on a damn tree. You're like, no, we want the damn thing green.
It might be more of a California thing, and I don't know if it happens in New Mexico, Andy, but
no, it doesn't, because the way we decorate is a lot different.
Okay,
like we have a lot more. Like we have trees. I'm not saying we don't have trees, but there's different traditions and decorations.
Okay.
So just like luminarios, or also called farolitos, which are basically just paper bags with a candle and sand in it, and they decorate. Some of us, I don't ever decorate, but I'm not Christian, so I'm sort of like, I'm not decorating. But they like line your walkway and they line your driveway, and like a lot of people have them, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And kids do that as a not band, kind of like a band candy thing. The school band will go to people's houses and sell that and be like, hey, we're making luminarias, and would you like some for your house and driveway? How many would you like? And then the person pays them, and they come in and buy in a truck later. And I mean, we have Christmas trees, but we decorate a little differently based on the Southwestern theme of our lives. So.
And I guess it also might have to do with just the nature of the, ethnicity of the area. Aren't bringing trees inside a very Dutch German sort of thing? Isn't that the history?
That's where it originated. Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean here there's tons of like people who historically come from Dutch and German families. So I honestly don't think I've ever seen anybody ever put fake snow on a real tree.
Yeah.
And y'all, I grew up in a trailer park, so there's some tacky shit out there.
We don't really do that because we sort of just accept that we're not going to have any fucking snow. We used to. Global warming is making it 85 degrees at Christmas. It is sweaty Dale.
So
comment and let us know how you celebrate your Christmas.
Please do, if you celebrate Christmas, however you do your holidays.
If you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever, let us know your traditions. We like to hear from y'all, and just personally how you do that.
But we do get this, and I would say that it's a nice scene where Joyce is trying to reach out to Faith.
Yeah.
And we'd given Joyce some heat and Faith hope and trick for letting Faith stay at this grungy motel all by herself. And I think the thing is, it's like Joyce is not responsible for Faith. I don't know what Faith's legal status is. I'm guessing she's an emancipated minor, so it's not like Joyce can force Faith to come stay with them. But it's nice to be like, why didn't she come over for Christmas dinner?
Yeah, I had the realization that I'm not mad at Joyce like I was. I was like, what the fuck is Joyce? Because she's not that person's parent, and she's not a watcher. The person I'm actually kind of salty with is Giles for just letting this kid. He would never let Buffy stay in a motel alone like that. He was looking for her so hardcore when, she was missing and was living in LA. He would never let that happen, but he lets Faith, we had this discussion, older, younger, but even if she's just slightly older.
I mean, when's the last time we saw Giles even interact with Faith?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I think this has been my issue with Faith from the beginning. And Giles, as much as I love Giles, and I love Giles, he is still a watcher. Buffy is an exception for him. I think it's not a rule and I think that he's treating Faith like he would treat any other Slayer that's not Buffy.
Yep.
Well, I don't think he's even doing that because, like I say, I was like, we haven't seen them interact at all. So it's like, you'd think at least he'd be talking to her about training or something, and we see nothing.
I do assume that they have some interaction, like patrols and stuff like that. We're just not seeing it because it's not part of the storyline. But
point of view, and most
it's not from Buffy's point of view, and most of it is. I suspect he speaks with her, but yeah, it's pretty negligent on his part. And I realize that Joyce is trying. She's inviting her over. She's showing concern. I wouldn't be surprised if she has invited her for other dinners, and Faith said no. And so she's putting a hand out, but she's not. Her responsibility and her care is going to go towards her daughter. And as long as she's not hearing about Faith doing or being abused or hurt, she's, so yeah, I love that Joyce is like, let's invite Faith.
Yeah.
There's also the potential that she just expects Giles to take care of this child.
Very true.
Yeah.
Great point.
He's responsible for.
Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Very good point.
But I think, like, Giles actually gets off incredibly light with everything that happens with Faith. Actually, Wesley ends up taking a majority of the blame for what happens with Faith, to the point where he gets freaking tortured when we get over onto Angel, and Faith is putting all of the failings onto Wesley. But I actually think by the time Wesley came in, there was a lot of damage done already. Faith and Buffy are very much treated like sisters, where one of them is the golden child and one of them is the black sheep, and Faith just really leans into it.
Really?
And it does come from Giles, so I might have liked to have seen some scenes of him feeling that a bit more, and have it not be as much put onto Wesley, which he did. Wesley did make mistakes. Like, I'm not trying to excuse what he did, but I mean, Giles is letting this, probably 17-year-old girl live on her own with no, I mean, why didn't, Joyce doesn't want Giles to come over because she's all awkward about the fact that they fucked. So why doesn't, Giles and Faith have Christmas dinner together?
It's very good points. I do love in this scene that, when Buffy walks over to the trees, her instinct is already kicking in, and she's remembering. This episode really has the return of Detective Buffy, which y'all know. I love Detective Buffy, and we don't see enough of that from her in later seasons. So that's a real positive for me on that.
I want to call her Encyclopedia Buffy now.
I love that. Let's do that. Yeah. I mean, I love Detective Buffy, but I'm a bit confused by this particular clue, because the whole thing is that nothing will grow above or below where, like, the Harbingers are, like, trying to raise.
They're already cut.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah, no, that's really like, what? Joss.
Yeah, it's like they are dead. They are corpses. Like, that's the whole joke. It's like that, Christians take tree corpses and dress them up.
I love it.
Yeah. Maybe there's like, they're going with like that myth that hair and fingernails grow after death.
That's
and
true.
taking it to trees.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe they're just so big and bad and evil that their big bad evil fumes kill things around
possibly.
Make them wilt.
And of course, this is also a little bit of mythos on the first that they immediately forget in season 7.
Yep.
It just is never brought up. And I mean, maybe it's because the Harbingers have gotten... By the way, I like to call them the Harbingers because I think that's a way better name than the Bringers. But maybe they got a bit hipper, because, I mean, they do, like, they're, like, hidden under, like, the winery or whatever, so maybe there's nothing, like, growing around it. Yeah, it's like, this didn't work out for us the first time, so maybe we should just, like, not have shit growing where we're trying to raise the first.
Right.
Yeah. And Buffy goes to visit with Faith and to invite her to Christmas. And I mean, I'm not skeeving on her because I know how young she is, but Eliza looks seriously gorgeous in this scene.
She's so pretty.
She's
so beautiful.
She's not dressed up. Like, she's dressed so cash, but she's gorgeous.
Eliza Dushku is stunning. She's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
I just like to look at pictures of grown-up Eliza because she makes me have feelings.
But yeah, how gorgeous Eliza really draws attention to just, like, the bangs really do, like, Sarah is gorgeous. Sarah is really gorgeous, but those bangs really do, like, detract.
You know what?
From her good
Listen,
looks.
here's the beginning of Eliza's weird fucking haircut for the rest of the season, where whoever cut her hair didn't understand layers, because she's got, like, 4 inches in the back. Is just then start the layers around her face, and I'm like, y'all need to try harder. I don't know. Can I go back in time and fix everybody's hair?
It's almost like the hairdresser got really drunk and tried to do the Rachel on her or something.
Failed.
Yeah, she's also got some highlighting going on. So it's like I have no idea what was going on with the hairdresser on Buffy for the middle of the season, but
yeah,
there was some not goodness.
No bueno. It breaks my heart that she's got all those Christmas lights up. I'm like, Andy, try not to cry. It's just, she's so lonely. And then when Buffy approaches her, she's so shut down.
Yeah.
And she makes this thing up about a party. And Buffy obviously knows that's not what's going on. Yeah. But like, just this short scene,
it's not only does Buffy know that that's not what's going on, but Faith knows that Buffy knows. It's just so transparent. And seriously, the only thing Faith is missing is the sad little Charlie Brown tree.
Aww.
True. Why didn't they have that? That would have been incredible.
Because that tree is actually fairly expensive. Because I've had a couple of friends who have bought the little Charlie Brown tree because they do make a recreation of it. And it's not cheap.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, the fact that she even tried to decorate her room with these cheapy Walmart, I mean, not that anything's bad with like cheapy lights, I'm not, but like she's got this like lonely string of lights around her motel room, and she's alone.
She
and
made
that's
an attempt.
It's an attempt at comfort for herself.
Well, Faith is in Sweatydale for Christmas, and she's somebody who's come out of Boston, so. So
yeah.
And it's especially hard to look back and as we go forward throughout the season to look back and see like Faith is still so redeemable here, and if somebody had made the effort that was necessary, things wouldn't have happened the way they had.
Oh yeah.
It's just, oh god, I get real angry about Faith.
Yeah. And again, it's not Joyce's responsibility, and I'm sure she does, and I love the point that she probably assumes that Giles is taking care of this. But even if Joyce had, asked about her more often and invited her more often, again, not blaming Joyce because she doesn't have all the information, but like I would see that even just the slight relationship with Joyce would be really beneficial to her, and being more trusting and having that mother figure. It would have been nice to see. I mean, we know that Faith Faith has to go on her journey.
I think a big thing with Faith being redeemable, is we talk about, how we put some things on Giles and how we don't blame Joyce for this kind of stuff. And I mean, I'm not blaming Buffy at all when I say this, because I think Buffy has so many of her own issues. But I think the one person who could really have reached Faith in this time is Buffy. The only problem is Buffy has so many of her own issues that the people around her aren't helping her deal with, that Buffy can't help Faith at all, because you can't help somebody else until you help yourself.
Faith doesn't accept what help she does try to give her.
That's true. Yeah. So
she doesn't. But
again, not blaming Faith for that, because I see she's in a certain place and that's how it is. But that's part of the dynamic.
I mean, they both have massive PTSD.
Oh, yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, the Slayer lives in perpetual PTSD.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, Buffy's not getting the help. Her friends are being kind of callous about things, and she's not talking about it. And how are you going to be Oz and be emotionally healthy when you just aren't getting the support or even working towards, that kind of. Maybe Oz and Buffy need to sit down and talk about how to be emotionally honest.
I was just going to say that Oz should just become like the emotional knapsack of like all of the scoops. Like,
but it's not his responsibility to be emotional.
I know it's not his responsibility.
When you're emotionally healthy, it's not your business to be a knapsack. But,
I would just really like to have scenes of like Buffy and Oz and Faith and Oz. I want just more Oz scenes where like Oz is just
come on,
super helpful.
He might have stayed. Seth might have stayed if they gave him more scenes with other.
Yeah, because that was, I think, his big problem, that he was just there.
Everything centered around Willow and that relationship.
And this Willow relationship. So yeah.
But that would be great, though. I would have loved to have seen that. It's like, welcome to the Sunnydale rap session. And,
3 episodes of therapy.
Oh, God. This next scene, which is another one of my favorite scenes of this episode, and that's Angel going to visit Giles.
Oh.
Ripper face.
Oh, my God.
I like Ripper face.
Giles is just so... I shouldn't say Giles. Anthony is so... good in this scene.
He's so good. And So here's my note about this scene. Tony is so freaking good in this scene. And as much as David has improved,
it shows that he's not.
It shows
he's
that
not
he's
at the
not
same level.
At the same level. It's a very unbalanced scene. I love from Giles' perspective, but there's sort of an imbalance, and there's stuff that David is doing in this episode that's like really, I mean, maybe it's bad directing and some bad dialogue, right? But like this whole like overwrought, we know that David's going to be able to do better with quote unquote crazy acting and the whole, you know,
tortured,
yes, but it's not, it's a little like he's just not hitting that quite. And part of that's David, and part of that is always direction. I always put at least 50% of the blame on a director for not sort of massaging that performance out.
Well, I mean,
get rid of that Joss Whedon guy. He sucks.
I think we've talked and we've praised David for last season. And I do think that he got an acting coach, and I think his acting has improved quite a bit. But I also think a lot of his improvement was focused on playing evil, on playing Angelus. And playing all of these different levels, it does take, you know, different skill sets. And I don't think he has quite gotten to the lesson on tortured acting yet.
And you know what? I think David's strength is not tortured acting.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the strength. I think it's this kind of action-y hero and also kind of sly, sarcastic, and dorky.
Yeah.
Like, even his character on Bones can be kind of dorky with his belt buckle and his weird socks. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's just not maybe, unlike other actors who have like a more range of strengths. And again, we said this about Allie in a prior episode. It's not a knock on their acting. It's just some people have strengths, and Tony is glorious in this scene, though.
Yeah,
like,
see, I think that's why I think it's kind of an unfair comparison, because although David has definitely won the most improved award on Buffy, like
he's not a classically trained actor.
Yeah, but I mean, Tony is, maybe I should think this through more, but for now I'm just going to say Tony is like the best actor on this series.
Oh yeah, I would agree.
He's just fantastic.
And when he's acting like with someone like Sarah, they have different training. Like he has theater, stage, London-y, British training, and she didn't have I suspect Sarah's taken acting classes. She's, you know, but she's been acting since she was 5.
Sarah
David
is
had been
definitely
acting
a pro.
since he was 25.
Yeah.
You know, David got cast, he was what, 26?
26 or 27, something like
26 or 27 in the first season of Buffy. Sarah is, what, 19 when she starts the show? Yeah. But she's also been acting since she was 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely a level that they are both bringing that is just not there with David yet. You know, and it's not a total diss on his performance, because part of it is the writing and part of it is not the right kind of direction he needs to get to a better in that acting.
Yeah, but Giles, desperate woman comment, but Giles with that motherfucking crossbow.
Oh God!
See, you like the
I was
crossbow,
gonna make a desperate.
I'm all into it. I'm like,
I was gonna make a desperate person comment there too, because with his shirt unbuttoned, sort of relaxing at home, so he's not quite as buttoned up, but still dressed up. Like Giles doesn't change into sweatpants at the end of the day. He just rolls his sleeves up, and
his delivery and timing is just so good, because Angel's like, I can't come in, and he comes back from around the corner and says, I know, and raises the crossbow. It's like the timing on that it's perfect.
And there's almost something Buffy-ish about some of his deliveries or some of his lines, because when he's just like, and the funny just keeps coming, and it's like that's you've been hanging out with Buffy for too long, because he's been
in America way too long.
Yeah.
It's the one thing. What's her name? The ex-watcher from Revelations, Gwendolyn Post. Yes. So the one thing she's right about, he has been here too long.
And of course, we get an appearance from Rabia LaMorte as Jenny, and
she's so good.
She is so good in this episode.
Anytime I see her, Adele just screams in my ear.
There's some parts where she's really good, but there's some parts, I think especially late in this episode when she's talking to Buffy, that I was not completely sold on her acting, but I think a lot of that might actually come from Rabia between season 2 and this appearance had become a born-again Christian. And the subject...
She almost did come back.
She almost didn't come back, and she was uncomfortable with the concept of the show in general, but she wanted to come back because she liked the character of Jenny, but she hadn't read the script before she agreed, and since the first evil is basically the devil, that she was so uncomfortable with that. So there are some scenes where she does very well, but I think later on, when she's doing the whole, like, speech about how she's, like, the first evil and everything, I was feeling Rabia's uncomfortableness with playing the role.
I can see that.
I felt her performance was a little uneven. Not bad, but there were some ups and downs. And I think you're right, that speech. And I think part of it is that speech is so kind of overblown and overwrought.
Oh, it's also badly written, yeah.
It's just it's not like the first at this point is a one-off character, so they didn't put work into it very clearly. So it's it's kind of,
she does.
She's back in her favorite dress. That dress is so beautiful,
and just the way she's kind of hovering around Giles, and the way
when she touches his arm.
Does she touch his arm, or does she just?
Well, I mean, she sort of look. I mean, she doesn't actually touch, but she
kind of just like, you know. I'm making hand gestures, and of course our listeners can't see that.
Nobody can see that,
but
right?
she
like
I skims over his not quite touching, and it's beautiful. And then of course, you know,
and again, Tony's acting here is just amazing. The whole looking around like she's not there, is just spot on.
Which is very hard to do. It's very hard to act with
very hard
not
to do.
There, especially like that close. Angel has this little, you know, freak out, and then we get into another flashback, which I have nothing to say about this flashback because it's just such a sexualized attack, and so the only thing I'm focusing on is that mustache.
The hair, though. Oh, you get the accent and the mustache.
Yeah, my only comment on this scene is, like, honestly, it's there just to play up the difference between Angelus and Angel. Yeah. They're just, like, making Angelus so goddamn awful here. And, like making him extra awful today.
Yeah. And one of the things that bothers me about this episode, and as you guys can guess, that there's a bunch of things that bother me about this episode, but it's established in Angel that Angelus and Darla were together a good deal of the time. Like, maybe not all the time, but certainly considering how this is, you know, peppered through, like, Angelus's lifetime, that Darla should have turned up at one point. And honestly, I think they missed an opportunity having Darla appear as the first evil. Because if there was anybody who would have been able to really just lock in on all of Angel's insecurities and just everything, I think it was her. And we know that the first evil should have been able to take Darla's appearance because Darla is not only a vampire, but she's a dead vampire at this point.
Are we back in that alternate universe where we wrote the show?
I'm always in that alternate universe.
Yes, I know. Yeah, that would have been genius. And I don't even think they thought of it, which is why you're way better.
I have way more stuff for this episode. It's like, and if I wrote it, so we'll get into that. But yeah, the flashback, all I was focused on. I mean, the hair wasn't good, but the mustache superseded it because that mustache was just, it was that mustache.
Ice Road Trucker Angel.
Hey y'all, I'm gonna kill you with my vampire teeth. He joins up with the torches and they recreate vampires.
Well, hey, maybe that was around the time that he hooked up with them, because we know at some point that they, or I can't remember. I don't really care to learn about the Gorch's history or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this scene, it's really upsetting, and and even before he bites her, before she knows that he's a vampire, the fact that she starts to acquiesce because she knows she has no other choice as a servant, and because it's terrible.
Yeah, no, this scene, that's why I'm not talking about it. This scene is upsetting. And even when, it's treated as a kill, it was very sexualized and it's cut off because of the, sharing the dream with Buffy. But I think that it was not just a straight up kill from Angelus.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that he just went for killing her.
Yeah.
Given the way the scene is going. It's
Yeah.
The
like,
show always implies this stuff, but never.
yeah, that's
You know,
true.
I'm just gonna say it straight up. Angelus was a rapist.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and they imply it several times. They imply it enough that I think that they might as well have just stated it. So, and this is kind of one of the first times that they show it straight up. And it's not the last time, and I fucking hate it.
Yeah, no, it's awful. I mean, this scene is, like I said, this scene is there just to make Angelus look even worse than usual.
But we see that Buffy is in the dream as well, and that it is not just Angel having some strange dream, but they are actually having, like, this connected dream thing.
I thought the lighting around Buffy when she appears is really interesting. It was not just to be, I don't think it was necessarily just to be anachronistic, this 20th century girl suddenly appearing in a 17th century dream? I don't know what the timeline is.
They actually, this was one of the few flashbacks that they don't actually put a...
Not on that one. The one with Daniel is 1838.
Yeah.
Okay, so 17th century.
Yeah, 17th century.
So, 18th century. Fuck it, I don't remember how that works. Anyway.
Yeah.
17th century. I thought it was a way to... She looks ethereal. She looks angelic.
She very
looks like
much
a
does.
conscience, just making herself known. Yeah,
it's like it's not a spotlight, but it's there as a spotlight put on her to basically set her apart from everything else. So it's like by making her dreamlike, they focus on the fact that she's the one real thing in the dream.
And her bad hair.
And her bad hair.
It really puts a spotlight on
her. Right,
her.
I mean, it was almost ruined by the bangs.
Those bangs are just gonna haunt us.
They're the worst thing ever.
Oh my
and it kind of reinforces the feeling that she's intruding on the reminiscence.
Yeah. And after they've both woken up from the dream, then Angel is confronted by Jenny / what we know is the First. And this is a scene that I really like Rabia in. I thought she did well.
Backtracking a bit, I love that Angel is having these horrendous dreams and these visions, and he goes to Giles for help, and he has a vision, and he immediately goes home and goes to sleep.
With his red velvet blanket.
Fucking unreal.
Of course. I'm just like, of course you have a red velvet blanket. You're such a mopey goth.
He reads by firelight, what he absolutely confirmed has electricity at that fucking mansion.
And also
night vision.
We see that exterior shot of the mansion, and I'm like, that is a weird mansion. It's like, it looks like someone took it actually looks like someone took a mansion and a castle and kind of smashed them together.
Well, it's Frank Lloyd Wright, isn't it?
Huh?
It's what?
I think it's
Frank Lloyd Wright. Yeah, and they've tried. They don't make a copy of the inside of the house, but they do use that.
David wouldn't be able to stand up in a Frank Lloyd Wright house.
Right. Well, the individual bricks, I saw this on Tumblr the other day, and it wasn't talking about Ennis house, but it was talking about one of the other Frank Lloyd Wright houses that use that very particular brick that you see on the outside, and you also see it mirrored on the inside.
Right.
So they tried to keep that, and I'm going to have to look it up. But it's a style he did in like 3 or 4 of his houses, that same interlocking brick. I just saw it on Tumblr. But yeah, the inside and outside of Enna's house, it's totally different. Go back and watch Blade Runner if you want to get a little more of a feel of what Enna's house looks like. Sorry,
it's okay. I don't actually have a lot of notes on this scene, so unless anybody else has.
When she says, "I want to die in bed surrounded by fat grandchildren," I know it's the First, but I'm still just like, oh. And the way Rabia delivers it so sarcastically is that's good. I really like her.
Yeah.
There are a lot of lines in this show specifically delivered to a palpable hit. You got Cordy with your family's a bunch of drunks. I mean, I'm gonna say it loudly and in public. Sorry about your trauma. And then this line is also it's I don't know. It's obviously Joss.
And I mean, of course,
it was a rough line.
There is one thing we do have to realize about everything that's delivered by the First, and maybe the First is making it up, but actually, I don't believe that. But in I think the second episode with Faith in it. After they've kicked Buffy out of the house, and the mayor appears, and the mayor says, "It's right, I am the First, but I'm also Richard Wilkins the Third."
Yes, that is true.
the first is somehow able to draw from the spirits of these real people. So I think everything that the first says, even though it is tinged through this first lens, it's absolutely what Jenny would have said in that situation. So,
which makes it
really
more
good. Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's like they pull from the memory of these
Mm-hmm.
people they're inhabiting, and that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's the way that Jenny would have said it.
Giles and Buffy talk about Angel's dream, and Giles is a good guy. Because
Giles is a good guy.
Yeah, because
as much as we poked at him for the faith thing earlier, he is a good guy.
Well, like I said, like Giles's number one priority is and always will be Buffy. And as much as he hates Angel, and he has every reason to hate Angel, he's still going to research all of this stuff. Well, because one, he's a good watcher, but the main reason is because he knows that it matters to Buffy, so he wants to find out what's going on.
And ultimately, he doesn't want her to have to kill him again, because he knows how irreparably, did I say that right, damaged that would make her. Lots of damaging things happen to Buffy, but having to do that twice would have been, she would not ever function as the same human being again.
Yeah. I think it would absolutely wreck her. And also, this scene reminds me, it's like why I originally liked Xander as a character.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's really, really great. And I'm like, wow, I wish we saw this more often, because he's very humble and he's very gentle, and part of it is that he doesn't want to be around his parents, and he wants to be around the people he considers family who really love and understand him, but he's being great.
This is yellow breaky crayon speech Xander. This is the potential speech Xander. This is the Xander that he will eventually grow into. Yes.
Yeah, but my question is, how does he have this turnaround on an angel-related subject so quickly? It's so unmotivated.
It is the Hanukkah spirit, and I
know, but it
is a
narratively, it is wholly unmotivated.
It is a very jarring, because we have not really seen Xander since that initial scene.
Right.
So yeah, it is jarring, but I will accept it, because maybe behind the scenes, he realized he didn't want to be at home. He wanted to be with his family, and he realized it's like, maybe I was being an asshole to Buffy because she was like legit worried.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be around his awful family, and sometimes in seeing how awful this group of people are, you actually reflect a little bit on yourself and your own behavior, which I think he's done in between the last time we saw him and now, and realizes that the people that he loves and who really love him are in distress right now, and he wants to alleviate that distress regardless of his personal feelings towards Angel. And so I'm okay with that narrative and character jump. I really am. This is the Xander I love, and Nikki plays it so well.
Yeah, for me, it's just such a drastic reversal. By the time we get to the scene in Willie's bar, he's like threatening Willie, and just like really, for want of a better way of putting it, taking Angel's side on this. And it's like,
I think he's taking Buffy's side on this.
I guess, but it seems too extreme for me. It's like that he would be helping, absolutely. Again, it's an issue of what I think is probably just not great writing.
As a writer and a critic, I totally get what you're saying. As a watcher of the show, I'm just so happy that Xander is acting like a grown-up, emotionally competent human being, that I accept the scene.
Well, I guess that's the thing, is like at this point in the show, it's like that's so out of character.
We bag on Xander so much, but and he has so much toxic masculinity, and I want to shut him up and tape his mouth most of the time. But I still recognize there's a heart to Xander and a sensitivity underneath all that bullshit. So, and I'm going to say, when he starts acting like this, I was like, Nikki, you're real hot in this episode. I don't know what it is. All of a sudden, I'm like, it's something about his sweaters just fit really well on his shoulders. I love that. A dark-haired man in a sweater that makes his shoulders look really broad. It's my crack.
Apparently a cooling sweater because of the heat that's coming through.
Right, it's got built-in cooling pockets. I know. Like, fuck you guys in your sweaters. You should all be in shirt sleeves. That's a bad costuming and production decision. Have them in tiny tank tops, the women, whatever.
Mm-hmm. You can have the guys in tank tops.
Oh, tiny tank tops.
Well, right. No, guys in tiny tank tops too. But like, just in terms of the fashion of the 90s, women in tiny tank tops were a thing.
Let's have it be so warm that Giles takes off the
shorts.
That Giles takes off the tweed and is just wearing like the undershirt that you know that Giles wears under there.
Right, yeah, and make the and direct your freaking actors to like show the heat.
Yeah.
They comment on it, but they don't actually act it.
Yeah.
Which is that's a total director thing. Yeah. That is absolutely, I blame the directing on that.
Yeah. It reminds me of they did a clip show episode of The Simpsons once, and it was a clip show to a Valentine's episode where everybody on The Simpsons is dressed exactly like they usually dress, and so Lisa makes a comment about that unseasonably warm Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But Willow ends up coming in because she's got nothing better to do. Because I don't feel like Willow is aware of what's going on. She's kind of been caught up in everything in her life. But she gets to have a really nice conversation with Buffy. And I love this because I know, like, people will bring up the Bechdel test where it's like, they're talking about boys and everything. It's like, I don't care. My girls are bonding.
Yeah, for sure. I will say that it's very reminiscent of the very first second episode, where Buffy's like, carpe diem, seize the moment, and Willow immediately goes and finds a boy to run off with, and he ends up being a vamp. In this case, she takes Buffy's advice, and you know what I mean? She's taking this advice
very
to
much
make
in the wrong direction.
Right.
We will get into that once we get
that
to
Oz
that
is,
scene.
you know, and that's not, but I don't think that's Buffy's intention.
Oh, no,
Buffy's
not at all.
Saying, you should tell Oz how much he means to you by having sex with him. She's giving her really great practical advice, and Willow, of course, runs to the thing. But, you know, that's Willow's character. Sometimes she goes to the extreme of it, you know, of what she's...
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a gorgeous scene, and I love them in it, for sure.
No, it's a really great scene. Honestly, I think Buffy was trying to tell Willow that Willow should tell Oz that she loves him, because I don't think Willow has said that yet.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we get to more torture between the First and Angel. And when I first saw this scene, I was a little thrown by the businessman because it seems so incongruous. Right. But then I realized it's like, oh shit, they're trying to tell us that Angelus did a lot more than just torture Buffy during his stint in Sunnydale. And that was actually very impactful when I realized that.
Oh my gosh, I just realized that.
Oh,
I was just like, wait, I was going to say the time frame doesn't work, because when did he, you know, by the time he got the gypsy? No. Oh, thank you for bringing something up 21 years later that I never realized before.
A very good example, and an immediately following scene of Show Don't Tell.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this so good and so poorly simultaneously?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't understand.
Yeah, and we also have some early installment weirdness, because as you know, we were giving the First a pass with the scene with as Jenny with Giles, but when Jenny is with Angel, she straight up touches him. It's like there is
straight up.
There's no getting around it. There's touching going on. And I mean, I don't think they actually established that the First is non-corporeal in this episode.
Right.
But it becomes such a center point of the character in season 7 that it's glaring. But
I was about to say, is it because he's dead? But the whole torturing Spike thing immediately changes.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've seen some people like try to fan wank it, where it's like, no, the First can just like concentrate really hard, like some ghosts do, and it's like, no, that goes against exactly what they said, that the First just has no form. I think in this, it is early installment weirdness, where sometimes, like, when you have something first come up on a show and you don't exactly know what's going on, once you bring it back again, then you kind of get what's going on. Yeah. So I think that's just
and they never knew that they were going to bring this back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's exacerbated by that.
They didn't set up like hard, fast rules for this, because like they thought it was a one-off.
I mean, okay, let's face it. The first evil in this is the Ghost of Christmas Past. That's just what it is.
No, it's
this is, you know, they just don't do the other parts of, A Christmas
Yeah.
Carol.
Well, the businessman is the ghost of corporate future, so.
And then Buffy and Angel share a sexy dream.
Bangle sex scenes are so Harlequin romance Lifetime movie of the week. That's just kind of how they're always shot, with a soft focus, weird editing, and I don't know.
I have to admit, I kind of zoned out for a minute while that was going on. I was just like, uh-huh.
Well, it was just like these really, really close-up shots so that you couldn't tell that it wasn't actually Sarah and David.
It wasn't actually Sarah and David?
I have no idea, but I would assume for like the shirtless stuff, they might have had like body doubles.
I don't think David needs a body double.
I'm just teasing mostly.
Okay.
But I mean, considering you never see their faces once like the shirts come off and stuff, and it's all very close up.
Mm.
I mean, maybe
which is the same way they shot the sex scene for Innocence.
Yeah,
No.
but sexy, and they're both having the dream. And the first, again, there's so many of my notes for what the scene breakdowns are, and it just says the first taunts Angel, and sometimes I'll like put in who is actually playing the first.
And they're trying to kill, like, in trying to get him to bite Buffy, they're killing two birds with one stone. You take Angel out, and you take Buffy out.
Okay, so should I get into my theory now about what the first plan is for this episode? Because
yes,
okay,
please, I'll take anything at this point.
Well, I have a huge the first, and it comes up in this scene that the first takes credit for bringing Angel back, and Giles in the next scene says that the first had the power to do it. I do not believe this at all. I have said this on several other podcasts. I fully believe it was Jasmine that did it. But that doesn't explain what the first is exactly doing in this scene. But if you actually think about it, think of this as a prelude to season 7 and everything that goes down in that season. The first says here that she wants Angel to kill, or I say she because it was Jenny. The first wants Angel to kill Buffy. But then when Angel says that he'll kill himself instead, the first says, well, that'll do. If you think about what happens in Chosen, it's Buffy working together with a vampire with a soul that brings the first down. And I think possibly the first knows that it's both of them working together. It's a different vampire with a soul than the first, thought, because at the time there was only Angel. But yeah, that's what I think is going on. And actually, I'll just give out, my whole theory. This episode and season 4 of Angel and season 7 of Buffy, I like to think of like the plot line they never actually bring up, and it's just my theory. It's like a cosmic chess game between the first evil and Jasmine, because both of them are actually trying to go for they're both trying to go for global domination, but the first evil's on the side of dark and Jasmine's on the side of light. And everything that happens, like these different moves, especially in this episode, the first evil taking credit for bringing Angel back, but I think it was Jasmine. And then at the very end, when we have the snowfall, Joss has admitted that it was the powers that be that did that.
I was going to say it's the powers. My notes say it's the powers. Yeah.
Yeah.
My belief was always that it was the powers that be that brought Angel back, but Jasmine actually makes a lot of sense. Again, your theory actually is, I'm going to take it, and it's going to be mine now, because I initially thought that the first was taking the long view, and Angel's part in assuming he was a champion, yes, but ultimately bringing what was necessary in order for Spike to do that. I thought that was the reason the first wanted to get Angel out of the way, so he wouldn't be able to find that amulet. He wouldn't be able to bring him to Sunnydale and either sacrifice himself or put Spike in position, but specifically Spike. But yeah, the idea that it's a vampire with a soul, that makes more sense, because getting into specifically Angel bringing the amulet so that Spike can use it is real specific.
Yeah.
It's a great theory, and I actually take that as my canon now, because you've explained things in a way that makes all of it make so much more sense than the writers ever give us, because I don't know, when you're on a production schedule, sometimes you don't have time to sit down and but it's such a nice way to look at the long game on both the series and the repercussions of that within, and it makes it a lot more logical when you get to season 4 of Angel and to season 7 of Buffy, that I just,
Yeah, well, I mean, it is one of
my
those
best
theories.
friend is brilliant. My best friend is brilliant.
Thank you. I mean, I'm not trying to blow smoke up my own butt, but it is one of those theories where if I had the chance to tell it to Joss, I'm sure he would go,
He'd be like,
let's go with that.
"Oh,
No, I don't
let's go
think, I
with
think it
that."
would be like, let's go with that. Yeah, I totally meant to do that.
They're like, no, you didn't, but okay.
Yeah. Giles does find out about, the first evil, and we find out about the bringers / the harbingers. And as I said before, I prefer calling them the harbingers. And I actually got into, some fights online during season 7 because they kept on calling them the bringers. And I was like, I really liked when they called them the harbingers because it just sounds more sinister than the bringers.
One of the reasons I really like this episode, not really like, but I like it, is this great scene in the library where they're all researching over the books, because that's the kind of thing I live for, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's no agenda from anyone, and the only agenda is helping Buffy and solving this thing. And there's no snittiness. They're just working really hard. Willow and Xander. And researching, and Giles, and putting aside a lot of their bullshit. That is the Hanukkah spirit. That is our holiday spirit right there. And I do love that.
One of the things about this scene is that it's actually so old school. This is season 1 Buffy, because
it is, yeah.
Cordelia is removed from this episode very early on, and Oz only appears to serve Willow's personal storyline. Angel is obviously the person that they're trying to help, so he doesn't appear in there. So this is just our core Scoobies trying to work out a thing. And I think it does come off.
Yeah. Also beats.
Also beats,
yeah. No, I love the little sly beats line. And then we make it to the bar, right?
Yes, we do. Buffy and Xander go to Willie's, and I thought Xander and Willie were really funny together. And
I think,
yeah,
Nikki's obviously. Oh, sorry, Xander's trying to do a hard-boiled, detective.
Oh yeah,
and it's just, and it's the thing where he's just like, I was real intimidated by you, man. And then Xander, who's trying to be really hard, he's like, really?
So
were you? He's like so happy and validated by the fact that he was intimidating, which he wasn't.
And of course,
I love that Willie gives him
so
that.
Cute.
We also get the brief moment of him being a 17-year-old boy trying to get alcohol, and then Buffy gives him a look, and he's like, "I'm looking for a tall glass of information."
Information.
Yeah.
Information. Great line.
Yeah,
and then they go outside again and talk about how hot it is in their long sleeves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I know Xander is trying to comfort Buffy, but going off and celebrating Christmas is not a good plan. I mean, at this point, they know who they're facing. It's the first fucking evil, which we find out in season 7 is a really big deal.
Well, I think that's the thing, is it's not presented as big a deal here.
Yeah, but I mean, Watsonian versus Doyleist, from a Watsonian perspective, it should be a big deal. As soon as Giles finds out that it's the first evil, he should have taken a bigger stance. It just shows that they did not have plans. So
no,
but yeah.
I just think that scene is just a little bit of comedy gold right in there with what is it, Guerrero Savio, who plays Willie? What's his name?
I will.
Guerrero is the last.
Saviero Guerrera.
Guerrero.
Yeah.
He's great, and I love him, and I'm sad
Willie's
we
wonderful.
lose him.
I love Willie.
I love Willie. I do too. I'm a big fan of Willie. And Xander and Nikki is so funny.
Yeah, he is one of those nice characters that they pepper throughout the show. I think this is the first time we've seen him since What's My Line?
I think so, and we don't see him much after. Oh, I can't remember what season where he disappears, because he got a series. He's got a series regular job.
He leaves in
on
Goodbye,
Becker.
Iowa.
Yeah, I was going to say he turns up a couple of times in season 4, and then we still see Willie's, but, we just
don't see Willie because an actor's going to take a series regular gig over a recurring role that you don't know when you're going to be seeing. And so, but I do like him, and I like that actor. He shows up. He's that guy. I still see him and stuff, so it's a good scene.
And then we get into the Oz and Willow scene, which is, again, I love this scene. But I have a few questions. Where are Willow's parents?
She says they're out of town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She says at the beginning of the episode.
Okay.
She said, my folks are out of town. Oz is going to come over on Christmas Eve.
Okay, I totally missed that.
Yeah.
So her neglectful parents.
It's in the library scene, yeah.
I'm sure her parents were like, "Oh, Willow's fine. She's a good girl. She'll just study."
She's not going to invite a boy over and probably...
You know nothing about teenagers.
And try to seduce him. No, that's... Yeah.
And like, Willow, like, totally prepared everything. Like, she went out and, like, bought a box of condoms and everything.
Oh, yeah. No question.
I mean, because she was playing Barry White, so...
I love the Barry White thing.
And you know that she had to go out and
get
Barry
working
too.
for you.
She had to go out and get that because Willow does not have any Barry White.
Oh, yeah.
And her parents are not cool enough to have any Barry White either. So,
I don't think so.
Yeah. First of all...
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think I own any Barry.
Oh, I own tons of Barry White. Well, I love Barry White.
Thank you for taking the slack.
I'm actually going to bet that Willow went to whatever CD store was around in 1998 and picked up a compilation of, like...
Sexy time songs?
Yeah, basically, yes.
So I had a coworker, I worked at the Department of Black Programs at my university as my work study job as a research assistant, but I had this wonderful colleague, and she would call this begging music. we were talking about Boys to Men. She's like, this begging music, like begging. She's like, Barry White. Barry White was my generation's, because she was a little older, my generation's begging music, and when he starts talking on songs, I'm just so delighted. I'm using my first, my last, my everything. It's on my wedding playlist for when I finally get to have a wedding. Because first of all, I always love hearing Barry. And it's hilarious because it's such a stereotype of what people listen to when they get it on.
When I hear this kind of stuff, I immediately think of Craig Robertson from Brooklyn Nine-Nine when he's playing Dodgy.
Oh my god.
And he's like,
I was literally just about to bring up that line.
Songs about smushing. Songs to smush too.
Yeah.
And songs for the kids here at the All Ages Piano Bar.
Everybody
I was literally Googling. I was like, is he saying smush? Is he saying smush? I can't remember. I don't want to make the joke. It's not saying smush, but I couldn't
It is totally smush.
No, I mean, Barry White is de rigueur for this kind of scene.
It is.
Totally, you have to use Barry White.
Yeah.
Or the theme from A Summer Place, but Willow doesn't actually
Well, that's
know
the thing. That's my problem with this scene.
I know.
She looks great in that dress, and Barry White is classic, and, your go-to for this. But there's no feather boa, and there's no theme to A Summer Place, and I'm sad they didn't do that.
Here's the thing. If they had used a theme from A Summer Place, Oz totally would have gone for it.
Oh, of course.
And Oz cannot go for it because, and we will get into this now, this is the worst idea Willow could have.
It is.
And it's like, it is Oz. Willow is actually very, very lucky that Oz is a sterling human being, because if they had slept together in this episode, their relationship would not have lasted much longer.
Are we sure they don't sleep together?
Oh yeah, they do not. Yeah.
No, because they make a point that Willow loses her virginity in the graduation episodes.
Yeah.
It's like a very big point.
In Doppelgangland, she actually does mention that she plans on dying a virgin.
Okay. Because they do, like the last time we see them, they are in a bed together.
I think that...
In different clothes, and not in the same clothing.
I think that they end up reaching a point of emotional and physical intimacy before sex in this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm certainly not saying that I'm sure they had sex because of that. It's just like the way it's shown, it's like, it makes it less certain for me. But if we have further information down the line, that's right. So then, yeah, okay.
They do not have penetrative sex. That does not mean that they do not have some kind of sexual activity. Sex. Yes. I mean, and our culture is so messed up on this whole stupid what constitutes sex. Well, and also, in this, we know they don't go all the way, but I think they do have, and they talked about the half Monty in a couple episodes before. There's, they do something, and it's also intimate and loving.
This was 1998, which was kind of the height of, Bill Clinton. It's not actually sex. So
true, and I mean, I think, and I love that Oz says that he's not ready.
Yeah.
For as much as this show, and it's going to get real problematic with how they treat their male characters in sexual assault. But in this case, it's actually this lovely, like, she says, well, you have before. Like, they established that Oz has had sex before in the scene, but he doesn't want to now because he's not ready.
Yeah. And the thing
that's
is,
lovely to hear.
It actually takes, losing virginity is always treated as something very serious. But just because somebody has lost their virginity doesn't mean that sleeping with somebody for the first time is not a big deal. It's, you know,
and he specifically says this is different.
Yeah. One interesting thing about this scene is when Oz comes in and he says, have you ever been in that had that dream where you're in a play and it's the middle of a play and you don't know your lines and you kind of don't know the plot? That's exactly what happens to Willow and Restless.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're right. That is exactly what. Yeah, and I love how he says, "Do that." You know, she says, "You know, do that thing," and he's like, "You know, if you can't say what it is, you're not ready to have sex."
I have that exact note. If you can't say the thing, you're not ready to have the thing.
I've told children not that, and I wasn't quoting Oz, and I didn't even realize it at the time. But if you cannot name it and talk about it reasonably, responsibly, and as an adult, you are not ready to do it.
Yeah, and I actually think probably between this and Graduation Day Part 2, Willow and Oz probably do have that conversation because things...
Yeah.
And I mean, they might have had the conversation further in this, just that we don't see because it's, you know, 1998 and they're not going to have people frankly talking about sex.
Well, and also, you know, you've got 40-something minutes to do an episode, and that's like... You know, and I do not doubt that Willow and Oz are taking their relationship in steps. The half Monty, the full Monty, but without the others. You know, like, I actually think they're sexually active, but because of this whole stupidness around loss of virginity, we're not calling it sex.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you know, sleeping with someone can be just as much, if not intimate, than actually fucking someone.
Oh, yeah.
For our listeners at home, I think it's safe to say that everybody on this podcast believes that virginity is a social construct and it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yes, just to hit that point home.
What we're getting at.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, just let's hit it over the head just a couple of times. I really do like the phrase "make your sexual debut," but it also has its problems because you do. I mean, it's canon within the context at this point of the show and in the timeline that they've been intimate sexually, but probably not penetrative sex. And I don't know why I'm rehashing everything. I've just been sitting here quietly because you've all been saying what I've been thinking, because I really love Oz. It bums me out that we just don't get him for all 7 seasons because he has kind of levity and a maturity to the show that you don't even see in the adults. That you'll see, we'll see in Earshot when Buffy gives Joyce. Well, I guess she's not giving her shit, but she's shocked about Joyce and Giles having sex. You know, there are a few people in this show that are as frank as Oz, and I think this is one of his best moments.
Well, Oz is the best.
I think Oz
is the best.
I mean, there's the phrase "too good for the sinful world," and I think Oz has that, where it's like if we had kept him around on the show, they would not have been able to keep him like this. And it's
yeah,
and
I
right. mean, like they start.
And we see a taste of that.
Yeah, we do see a taste of that once we get into like season 4. And yeah, I think like a lot of the characters that people say are so good, like Oz and Tara, part of it, you know, all of Willow's partners, a lot of it does come from the fact that there is an abbreviated look at them, so we don't get the time. Like, say, with Spike, where a character might overstay their welcome, and we start to get into some things that we don't particularly like from them in, you know, the name of character development.
Yeah, and because there only seems to be one writer that exists in television that is not only willing, but good at writing characters who are just, like, happy with each other. And I'm looking at, is it
Mike Schur?
Is that
Mike Schur?
Mike Schur, that's right. Yeah,
it's Mike
literally
Schur.
The only person who's like, I want them to be happy. Is that okay with y'all? We're going to do it anyway. Bye.
Yeah.
And there's still going to be conflict.
And there's some of the best
because you can
relationships on TV.
And you can have conflict within a relationship without breaking up a relationship. Thank you, Mike Shore. You are golden.
I really need to watch more Mike Shore shows.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked about characters, writing too much of themselves into things. And I think a lot of that comes out with Joss when it comes to his writing of relationships. Joss did not come from a happy home. And I think he tries to work out so many of his issues when it comes to his writing of relationships on Buffy and, to a lesser extent, Angel, but particularly on Buffy, where it's like nobody's allowed to be happy because relationships aren't happy and they're not interesting to write if they're happy, and fuck you. You can totally, especially in something like this, where it's the battle of good versus evil. It's like, if you cannot make the battle of good versus evil interesting without making people miserable, you're doing it wrong. But
that's a really good point. I rarely take Joss's motivation into, which is ridiculous because he's created these characters, I just see them weirdly separate in a lot of ways. That's a really good point as to why this is such a theme on this show.
So, but more importantly, what do you think of Willow's dress?
Willow's dress is
I
fantastic.
like it. Yeah, I love it.
Like, it's sexy, but it's not out of character for Willow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like it's
for sure.
It's not like she's put on
velvet.
It's velvet.
So, yeah.
Well, it's that crushed velvety kind of
very 90s crushed
that
velvet.
90s polyester crushed velvet that. I had dresses not like Willow's because I do not have the same figure as Allie Hannigan, but I certainly had a lot of velvet dresses.
Yeah. And it's that super low cut where it's just like what she's there to do. Like,
yeah.
I want to give props again to costuming, because even in this season when Willow's maybe even sometimes not with a lot of forethought, taking initiative to do things that are more mature things and further along in her storyline, like whatever the episode is in the future where she gets captured by the mayor when they're trying to steal the box of Gavra.
I believe that's Choices.
She's also wearing
Enemies.
Choices, yeah. She's also wearing a rad crushed velvet dress. Yeah, and looking pretty hot and awesome in something that's very Willow, but also not hilarious ugly sweaters or overalls. And
when we get to that dress, that is my very favorite Willow outfit of all time, except for the musical. It's my very favorite Willow of all time.
So we should probably move on to the next scene, which is Buffy, Joyce, and Faith. And I'm kind of shocked that the Summers have a working fireplace. I mean, okay, maybe they would have a working fireplace, but the fact that they have it set up enough to, like, actually burn logs in it, like, they have to go out and get logs, and if they're in the middle of is Joyce just that devoted to the idea of this traditional Christmas that she's gonna go out and buy cut wood?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that hard to get cut wood. You can buy it, like, in front of Walmart.
Aesthetic. Emcee, aesthetic.
Okay.
It's aesthetic. Like, we have cut wood around here, and people buy it for various things in the middle of winter, which has not been winter lately. But yeah, no, aesthetic. It's aesthetics. It's the Christmas aesthetic.
That's a really vague thing to say, Andy. I gotta be honest. People just buy wood for various things in winter. What are they burning? What are they burning?
It's to cook their meth on. I am from Albuquerque.
And I also, I mean, this is a personal thing for me, but I get weirded out by people who have more than one tree topper. Because, like Joyce is asking, do you want, a star or the angel on top? And in my entire life, 35 years of life, we have never had anything different on top of our tree. And we have neither an angel or a star on top. We actually have a puppet, like it's a hand puppet of Punch from Punch and Judy. And we always put that on top of the tree. Granted, it's just like a weird tradition that we have, and not everybody has like traditions that, like that. I know some people buy, new angels every year, but I am somehow mistrustful of people.
My mom does themed Christmas trees. Now we worked out a thing where every other year, my brother and we get to do tacky Christmas trees, like homemade ornaments and shitty lights, and it's just great. But this past Christmas with the kids, we put a T-Rex on top of the tree.
Nice.
Ooh. I mean, see, that's where I can see changing it up, right? You do something for kids or for whatever to be like, okay, this is going to be funny, but I don't know. Yeah. We had the same tree topper for years until it broke and we got a new one. So I love this scene where, Faith is really opening herself up and saying and admitting there wasn't a party. There wasn't. And Buffy's trying here too. But I hate, poor Faith. It breaks my heart again when she's like, hey, I brought you presents. They're real crappy. And then she tells Joyce again, they're real crappy.
Faith is so great in this scene because she's opening up, but she's still remaining Faith because she says that party looked like it was going to be dead, and it's like, here, I brought you presents. I'm reaching out to you, but they're crappy. So whatever.
They're crappy, yeah. But the way she says crappy is, I love it. It's so Boston.
She is doing that thing that damaged kids do, where they're lowering expectations so that the people around them are less likely to be disappointed in them, which I think was a really nice touch.
She's reaching out, but then she's protecting herself in the same moment, and it's beautiful. I love that Faith is in this episode, and it's nice that Faith is able to just be in an episode and not have to be the center point of it, that they just accept that Faith is in this world, but she is wasted in this episode.
But I do like that when Buffy has to run off, like, Faith is like, yeah, I'll protect your mom. Do what you have to do. And I do like that Buffy says she will explain everything later, I promise. I don't know that she does, but...
she probably does. I mean, there's probably a debrief.
Yeah, so which is good. Because, that's part of Faith's problem is that she keeps getting left out of stuff.
And I think part of it is Faith's character. She's like, yeah, I'm willing to protect people, not just because it's my job. At this particular moment, I think maybe because she's just probably at this moment fond of the Summers clan, but also she understands. It's a good moment where you see how much they understand each other because they're the only two who are experiencing this life.
Buffy does have her encounter with Angel being very unhinged, and
that scene is just so melodramatic and poorly written.
Yeah,
I just don't even have much to say about it.
Yeah, and then she goes to see Giles and basically say that they're losing Angel. And all of this, like, this ending is really where I start... The beginning of this episode was fine. It wasn't something I was really interested in, but it was okay. But kind of everything from Angel, being really unhinged and then disappearing, and then everything from then on, it's like, this episode's lost me at this point.
I love Buffy and Giles working together, and Giles' line, you're rebels, they're rebels, and they'll never be good.
Yeah, that's a good line.
When he quotes, I'm like, so snarky. Oh, troll Giles, I love you. I love that. And I love that Buffy goes detective and realizes and puts together the Christmas tree lot, because we don't get that from her that much. But what I'm trying to figure out is, like, why Giles doesn't go with her for backup. She just, like, runs, she's like, and then she's alone, gonna fight these things. And I know Giles is not, like, the best fighter. He's not bad. Why there's no call to faith? Why Giles doesn't follow her? She needs to be alone.
It is entirely the Watsonian versus the Doyleist,
It is the Watsonian versus the Doyleist.
Yeah. Well, I get why Faith doesn't go.
Because she's watching after...
She's with Joyce. Yeah,
she's watching Joyce.
And
Giles, I don't know. I mean, how dangerous are the Bringers anyway?
Pretty.
They're
really they chant a lot.
They are semi-dangerous. They are probably no more dangerous than your average vampire. So I think Giles would be able to do pretty well against them. I mean, Giles was able to take one of them out because he had squeaky shoes. And
right.
And it was sneaking up on him. So I don't think they're that difficult. And I don't think they need to be that difficult, because when we do hear the Bringer talk through Andrew, they say that basically they're just drones. They are, a drop in the ocean or whatever flowery language they use, but they're pawns. They're not important enough to be too powerful.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like, when I asked, like, how dangerous they are, I mean, my thought was maybe Giles figures Buffy can just handle them.
I mean, yeah, that might be it.
No, it was just weird to me, but we got to get them alone.
Yeah,
that's the thing. The Doyle's perspective, the production perspective is we got to get Angel and Buffy alone.
And I mean, like I've already, we get to the scene with Buffy and the first talking to each other, and like I said, this scene is where I have a problem with Rabia's acting. I don't think it was a well-written scene, and I feel like her hesitance in the role was coming out. And mostly it was badly written.
All right, I get it. You're evil is a favorite, though.
That's a good line, yeah. Well, it's so dismissive of the fact that this ending is so overwrought, and so that line just kind of takes the sails out of all of the overwroughtness.
It does, in a good way. It's just like they know that pattering on and on, and Buffy does. She undercuts that kind of big, dramatic, melodramatic moment quite often in her dialogue. But then it's going to get more overwrought.
Of course, she may do that just because it's like, hey, my big melodramatic scene's coming up in a minute. You need to shut up.
True.
So, interesting bit of trivia. The place where Angel tries to kill himself is Kingsman's Bluff, which is the location of the Temple of Proserpina. So that's also, not only is this scene where Buffy and Angel have their big moment and, the powers that be make it snow, but it's also the location of the yellow breaky crayon speech.
And Buffy basically gets her own yellow breaky crayon speech in here.
Yes.
It's not as good as yellow breaky. I mean, yellow breaky crayon speech is like amazing. Mm-hmm. But she sort of gets that. And okay, thinking back on my life, this isn't going to be a big revelation. I remember being really touched by this episode at 23. And I remember being a lot more invested in the bangle thing than I am now. Now I'm just like, oh my God, even if you weren't a vampire, you'd be super creepy. Because again, I am kind of on board with writers put in front of me a lot of times saying, this is what we think the relationship is. And if I want to see another relationship, I go read fanfic. And I'm pretty much okay with what's put on the screen for most part.
Yeah.
And so I think I was pretty invested. Now when I go back and watch it at Christmas, I'm like, I'm just kind of going to play on my phone during this melodramatic stuff and enjoy the Oz and Willow and enjoy the snow and sort of the meaning of that. At the time in season 3, because I knew it was ending, I was sort of invested in the disillusion of this relationship and how that was going to play out. Because at this point in my life, my romantic entanglements were pretty fucking melodramatic and happening quite frequently. So that whole letting go of someone you really love because it's never going to work held my investment. Now my investment is in people like Oz or Wash from Firefly because they're good, stable people that talk about their feelings. But I liked a brooder. I liked a good brooder.
Like I said before, it's like I'm not like a super keen on this episode, but there are some really good lines from Joss, and if he thinks that it's some of his best writing, it's like, okay, like I can totally understand that. And a lot of Buffy's speech is that it has some very good writing in it, and I particularly want to call out one of Angel's lines when he does say, it's not the monster in me that needs to be killed, it's the man. That's very good writing.
Yeah.
And that is that not the line? It's not the demon in me, it's the man. Is that not the line that Joss really sort of holds up as?
I think so. Yeah.
That scans. I considering if you can take how these characters behave and sort of make assumptions about the person who created them, that makes sense with the way it appears that Joss often views himself. Rather, and especially since it's not something I ever knew, the reality of Joss's childhood, it makes sense. You do, if you do come from a broken home, you do feel oftentimes that there's just something in you that needs to go away, and I can see how that translates into Angel's melodrama.
Yeah, I mean, I was never really invested in the Bangle relationship, so that's, I think, why a lot of the emotional... I think Sarah does an amazing job with... Because, I mean, Sarah always tends to knock stuff out of the park, especially when it's very emotional, but...
And especially when it comes to Angel, Sarah, Michelle Gellar feels like Angel and Buffy belonged together.
Yeah. I think part of my problem, though, with this is that this comes so soon after Lover's Walk, because... Lover's Walk, we had this big emotional thing where it's like, we can't be together. And in The Wish, we don't see them interacting with each other because that's all set in an alternate dimension. And then all of a sudden in this, it's like, no, we're actually going to be together because we love each other so much.
And it kind of reminds me of the thing with Oz and Willow, because you've really, like, I think both of those relationship beats needed a little more time to breathe. But because of everything that's coming up, I think they had to, like, we need to do this now.
I'm a little bit more okay with it than I am with Oz and Willow than I am with Angel and Buffy. One, because Willow and Oz being apart from each other hurts my heart. But also because of the stakes of their relationship, because Willow and Oz, as close as they are, their relationship has not progressed. And I'm not talking about sexually, I'm talking about emotionally. They are not, like I said, I don't think that Willow has told Oz that she loves him. I don't think that they have quite progressed to the point of this doomed love where we love each other so much, and it's not a life or death situation in terms of their love.
Right. Yeah, Willow and Oz's relationship does not, I mean, it has consequences for our characters in the world, but it does not have cosmic consequences.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean,
in the same way that Buffy and Angel have absolutely cosmic consequences.
Yeah. No, I definitely don't feel the Oz Willow storyline suffers as much from being hurried, but it's a similar hurrying.
Fair enough. Yeah. Can we talk about the snow?
As a Christmas episode, I kind of like when it starts snowing. My heart goes, aw. But I'm a sappy human being.
I have a question about mechanics.
Okay.
My name is David. So in Angel, the glass that Wolfram and Hart put in the vehicles and in the buildings, do they say, it's been a while since I've watched, do they say it filters UV rays?
It's called necro-tempered glass, so I'm guessing it's something mystical.
Okay, cool. Because,
Hence necro.
What the fuck is it that burns vampires? Is it direct sunlight? There's still sun when there are clouds in the sky.
They don't really get into it. I don't understand. And I don't understand how how the snow would create enough clouds that the sun would not rise. That's not really how
you can actually get a worse sunburn outside when it's cold and snowy.
But they do actually literally have the weatherman say, "You will not see the sun today."
My favorite part of this snowfall comes in the Angel episode The Price, actually, over on Angel, where Angel is brooding over the fact that Connor is not there, and he's holding up a snow globe that he has bought for baby Connor. And he's brooding and is like, it never snows in California. And Cordelia says it did once. That's the biggest thing that I actually get from this scene.
Nice callback.
Yeah, I mean, coming from a climate where we have never had a true white Christmas. There's been snow on the ground and quite a bit of it, but never actual snowfall on Christmas. So anytime there's this snowy Deus Ex Machina in freaking Hallmark and Lifetime and in any kind of thing, it just hits that part of my New Mexican heart that sings White Christmas all the time and makes up new lyrics about just like the ones I'll never know,
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I think
that's what it is.
I think at this point
sap.
We could start getting into our final thoughts on this episode, and it's I do not care for this episode as a episode of Buffy, really. But as a Christmas special, I'm I watch this every fucking year, and it's it fills my heart with holiday joy, but almost Buffy is the type of show where a Christmas-themed episode does not work.
I would agree.
Because it's so incongruous with the things that they do. So it's it's cool for me to watch at Christmas, but when I'm actually doing a rewatch of the show, this is one that I might skip.
You know what? I skip it because I've seen it so many times for Christmas.
There's that, yeah.
When it comes to shows that do dedicated holiday episodes, you get that feel when we do Buffy's birthday,
or Halloween.
You get that, and Halloween episodes. You get those repetitive. These are our special holiday episodes, or in the case of Buffy, trauma episodes. But I just wanted to have a nice birthday, man. Just a nice, quiet, maybe some wine, or maybe I just want a nice, quiet birthday
with some wine. Yeah,
with some wine. It's just a weird episode, making it a Christmas episode specifically when they haven't done it before and they don't
do it again.
So I'm there with you. It's odd.
My final thoughts are yes, as an episode of Buffy and how it plays into mythology and how it plays onto the arc of the season, skippable. Except for except for the Oz and Willow, which I love the freaking Barry White scene and the, the getting back together scene in the classroom. Yeah, it's not my favorite episode by a long shot. Again, I do watch it every holiday because I don't celebrate Christmas because I'm not a Christian, and I'm not super into celebrating it because I don't like celebrating the secular version of a holiday that I don't believe in myself. That's just personal worldview stuff. But I do enjoy watching a ton of holiday episodes of my favorite shows. That's sort of my personal celebration. So for that, and because I'm a small-t sap, I 75% like this episode.
Specific number.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's an episode. No, I mean, it's like, I don't particularly dislike it. I don't particularly like it. It's
an episode.
A lot of it kind of just does what it has to do. And it's like, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
And there is some nice stuff here and there, but it's like,
I like the montage at the end. It's very sweet and sappy, where you see Willow and Oz, and you see Xander, and you see Giles. I think my biggest problem is the last shot of Buffy and Angel. It just goes on forever, and it's like, it just feels really long, and like, yeah, okay, Buffy and Angel are back together now. I got that within the first 3 seconds of that shot. And then they just keep walking, and you're like, oh no. This is not a Doctor Who
if they're going to blank
special.
the set in snow, they want you to damn well see it.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. That's true.
For a long time.
This episode, I have my theories, which I've already given out, and those theories make this episode a lot more palpable to me, but in my head, there's this little voice that says, that's not what they meant to do.
It makes the whole thing better for me, so thank you. I can now view this in a totally different light, so I love it.
Eventually, I'm just going to, if 1 week we don't feel like recording, we're just going to have a clip show where it's just me with my weird-ass theories.
I love it. I'm all for it. And, again, I'm going to say to our listeners, let us know your favorite holiday episodes of shows in the comments on YouTube, on Tumblr, on Facebook, because we want to know, because maybe we can pick up a cool new holiday-themed episode that we don't know about or forgot about from other shows. So my other favorite is whatever. My very favorite holiday episode is the Supernatural Christmas episode. I love that one.
Okay. So. I was going to say, any freaking holiday you want, because it does not have to be Christmas, because somebody mentioned, the Brooklyn Nine-Nine Halloween episodes, because those ones are always amazing.
So great. They're so great. Galentine's Day is my personal favorite holiday outside of Dia de los Muertos, so you can talk about Galentine's Day and Parks and Rec. But yeah, we want to. What I'm saying is, we want to hear from y'all.
Yes,
and we want to hear what
we always want to hear.
We love you,
and also tell us your weird theories about how things all connect together.
Yeah.
We're always up for weird theories.
I'm nodding.
Anyways, on that note, we should probably go until next week, and next week we'll be reviewing Gingerbread.
And we find out that Willow actually has a parent.
Willow does have a parent, yeah. And the reparents of Amy Madison. So until then, grr, arg.
We wish you a merry grr, arg.
Grr, arg.
Andy took mine. Grr, arg.
We'd like to thank everyone who downloaded the podcast, and an extra special thanks to everyone who shared, liked, and subscribed on social media. If you'd like your questions or comments read on the show, you can contact us on our website, returntothehellmouth.com, on YouTube, Tumblr, and Facebook at Return to the Hellmouth, on Twitter at HellmouthReturn, or on email at returntothehellmouth@gmail.com. We'll be sure to read your comments on the show. Be sure to rate our show at iTunes and Stitcher, and check out our show merchandise on TeePublic and Redbubble. See you on Tuesday.
Grr, arg.